Hello, my little Liebfrau Milches. Welcome to the Friday edition of Moohead Radio. I'm your host, a big and furry bovine. Joining me, a big and furry equine, Brian. There he is, the omnipresent Brian. And I did extend an invitation to Patrick Gilroy from 97.3 WEEI FM. And at this point, I have heard nothing back. I have sent him a link to the program. Maybe the Bostonians gotten high and mighty on us. I really don't know. But we are still going to talk about the 0-2 hole that the Cavaliers are in and what they might be able to do about it. And perhaps where LeBron should punch his ticket to go next. Well,
that's better than punching his wife.
Well, that's very true. We're getting too much of that in the news. Anyway, this,
just ask Warren Moon.
Yeah, God, there's been a bunch of them though. Now, what Reuben Foster's girlfriend has said, I'm a liar. He didn't really do any of these things to me, and it's like, You wonder when women suddenly change their story if they're A, just complete liars, or B, if they know a bad beating's coming, if they follow through. It's really scary.
Well, oh shit, what the hell is that running back's name?
Oh, Ray Rice?
No. For Dallas. Used to be a Buckeye. Where's 21?
Oh, why am I blanking? Hello. I try to forget about the Cowboys. Of course, Dallas is trying to
he's a Buckeye, so yeah, and on
Elliott.
Yeah. So anyway, he recorded his estranged ex-girlfriend on the phone, the one that he was accused of beating, saying that she was going to ruin his career. So there you go.
There you have it. I mean, look, nothing is impossible in this man's army. Nothing's impossible. We're off to an 0-2 start. And obviously, there's a lot of chicken littleisms going on right now. First, there was the Cleveland's going to sweep Boston 4-0 brigade, and they've kind of disappeared into the woodwork. And suddenly they make excuses as to, the fact that they're not analytical, that they're just homers, but they have 14 excuses as to what it all means. What I'm going to tell you today is not probably what Cleveland fans really want to hear, but it's, again, everything I do is rather unfiltered. I'm in South Carolina. I don't live in Northeast Ohio. And honestly, I don't get paid by anybody to talk great things about Northeast Ohio, nor do I get paid to talk shit about Northeast Ohio. I use my eyes. It's the Moohead eye test. And it was the same eye test that saw Deshaun Kaiser. And it's the same eye test that's watching the Cleveland Cavaliers. And, I honestly thought before the playoffs began that there is going to be a heaping helping of referee assistance in this series to help the Boston Celtics out. But I've got to be honest about this. They haven't needed it. I think the officiating, despite Tyronn Lue's comment that they're, quote, gooning the game up, and I don't know, we'll talk about that in a minute, what the hell that means. But I don't see that they're getting preferential treatment by officials. What I see is that they're scrapping and that they're working hard and they're not getting flustered and they're keeping their nose to the grindstone and doing as they're told, following instructions and playing very bloodless, calculated basketball. What I see with my eyes is that they can still have 3.5 minute periods where they don't score, but their defense is so good. The other teams never run up too big of a lead on them, and they come back. No matter what the deficit seems to be, it's always within 10 points, and they do it quick and efficiently, and they start making their shots, and their defense never wavers.
It also helps when they're able to go 6 or 7 players with double figures.
Well, that has something to do.
You don't have this. It's all or nothing with LeBron, and they get 2 guys scoring, and then there's nobody. Everybody else decided to go on an early vacation or whatever.
Well, I think everybody knows what my
Rumors.
feeling is about the Boston Celtics, about Boston sports in general. I mean, I've never been a fan. I lived in Massachusetts for a little while when I was in school. I never really cared for the Boston press. I never really cared for the braggadocio when they win and this sky is falling, Heaven's Gate kind of, negativity that surrounded the Red Sox for such a long time, and that goofy curse of the Bambino shit that was being perpetrated.
I blame the Catholics.
Honestly, I sat through it, and it was like, oh, it's the curse of the Bambino. And it's like, oh, would you fucking grow up? And then once the Red Sox win, they become unbearably bragging. And they're the greatest thing in the world, and we're better than the Yankees ever were. And suddenly the curse of the Bambino turns into this discussion of why Boston's a better sports town than New York. And that is the thing with Bostonians, is they have little pencil needle dick syndrome, because Boston, as good of a city as it is, isn't New York City, and they are located not that far from one another on the East Coast, and so the inevitable comparisons will be drawn. And Boston doesn't want to be like New York City, because New York City has multiple ethnicities, and if Boston could do away with that, they certainly would. My feelings about Boston fans and the whining that goes on when they're losing, and the obnoxious press and cheering that goes on when they're winning. What they remind me of are Germans. Germans are the first ones, to buy into the Adolf Hitler plan. But once Adolf has put a bullet in his head in a bunker and he's gone, and then it takes decades, and the Germans are the ones who are having this guilt over what they did. And then they'll come back later and go uber on us again, and we'll start knocking off people again as a neo-Nazi movement grows within Germany as we speak. You see, that's what Boston sports fans are like to me. They're either one way or the other, but deep down, they have this inferiority complex, which the Germans do too. And deep down, this inferiority complex weighs so heavily on them that they're alternatingly trying to be supermen, or they're trying to be cursed and humiliated. And that's how I see Boston fans. But I got to be honest now, and this Boston Celtics team is a team I would be proud of. I'd be proud to cheer for this team. I mean, they're doing everything they're supposed to do and doing it right. I mean, I can't find criticism and fault. You commit a hard foul and stop a guy from putting the ball up. That's the way the game's played. You switch off and help a man. You shut down passing lanes. You don't sell out and rush a double team, but you eyesight LeBron and let him, if he picks up his dribble, you're in a passing lane to limit the amount of damage LeBron can do off the pass. I got to tell you, I mean, their defense has been great. The performances of players, Horford has come up big, and that's been a big problem for him in the playoffs in the past, and he's found himself. You've got, in the beginning of the second half of game 2, you had Jason Tatum, who hadn't done shit in the first half, single-handedly carry that team. Started making everything he put up and played like a veteran, and he stepped up and took charge, and so he got that done. You've got Marcus Morris is not having a big series, but you look at the people who are doing the job for the Celtics, and it's like you said, it's 5-6 men. It's like army ants devouring an antelope. That's what I mean. They're just working together, and they're doing it systematically. And what it does,
and rotating 7 or 8 guys, and they're still maintaining the level of play. It's not this. It's not like with the Cavs come out of the locker room and 15 minutes later, the rest of the team shows up. The rest of their game shows up. It's like, what the hell?
Well, I think what it really does, I mean, game 2, and you know how critical I was of Dwayne Casey, but game 2 was Ty Lue's time to shine as an idiot by removing both LeBron and Kevin Love off the floor at the critical juncture to end the third, begin the fourth quarter, and to play with an old, slow lineup and not to have any offensive presence on the floor. And of course, that's when the game completely got out of hand. And Ty Lue basically after the game said, yeah, I probably went to that and it wasn't the right thing to do. But, we can't afford those kinds of mistakes. And Ty Lue, to me, has been disengaged with his health. I think he should move on and get himself healthy. And we should have a new coach next year who's actually involved in coaching the team. I don't know what the problem is with his health completely, but what I do know is that he's doing stupid things, and he's saying stupid things again now. The only answer he has to everything is, we got to pick up the tempo. We got to pick up the pace. We got to pick up the tempo. I mean, he's without an idea. He's without an X or an O.
Well, unless he plans on buying roller skates for his guys, I don't see how that's going to fucking happen.
Well, first of all, Boston turned the ball over 5 times in the entire game in game 2. They're not turning the ball over. And so the transition isn't going to come off turnovers. And if you're looking at them as far as trying to run off misses,
quick enough that they're covering the transition off of a rebound too.
They're young. And what they're doing is when a guy takes a shot, they're not sending a bunch of guys to crash the offensive boards. They're keeping some men back, and they are controlling the tempo of the game. They're just outplaying Cleveland from a strategic perspective and from a performance perspective. The other thing I'm going to say that's going to piss off Cleveland fans is that what my eyes see is a team that is hungry, a team that is ready for the moment versus a team that's fat, bloated, and well paid, and whose future is tenuous, to say the least. It's like watching the end of an era. That's what it's like. And our guys don't seem to be able to ratchet it up. In fact, it was we who panicked in game 2, not the Celtics. We blinked. In a game of chicken, we lost with a bunch of 21 to 24-year-olds on the floor, and we blinked. And it isn't because we're not good enough. It's because the hunger isn't there. I think for J.R. Smith, 1 championship is enough. I think Kyle Korver understands at this point that he's never going to have one. I think that George Hill wanted to come to Cleveland because he thought that the ride with LeBron would get him there. But the fact of the matter is he hasn't shown up and done a goddamn thing. People want to ride LeBron's coattails deep into the playoffs or into the championship round, and it doesn't work that way. Not when you're playing a team that is focused, a team that's working together, is hungry, and is new to this and wants to get there more than anything and feels disrespected. And they play with a chip on their shoulder, and I think they're doing wonderfully. And I'm not cheering for Boston to win, no, but I recognize that they deserve to. And all of the experience that the Cavaliers have means nothing. Kevin Love, is an antiquity. The game has moved faster. It's moved beyond how fast he can move. He is a liability. The guys who can guard him are much quicker than he is, and they have much longer wingspans than comparable 6'8" men. In the past, a 6'8" man couldn't cover.
But he does have 39 points in 2 games.
It isn't that.
So there is some production out of him. It's not.
It isn't that he's doing badly, but if LeBron's on the bench and he has to get rest, Kevin Love is not going to be able to take over a ball, especially if Lou doesn't put him in. But he's not going to be able to athletically take over a game just on the basis of having a size advantage. Size advantage, it's deceptive now. Being 6'10",
that's the role that Kyrie Irving had.
Well, I mean, it's actually we used to have a big three.
Primary ball handler. He could be a facilitator, and yet he could still put 25 points on the fucking board without,
right. And he could create his own shot. Kevin Love can't create shit off the dribble. I mean, we're trying to play a lineup without LeBron, without Love to go down low and try it down there. And who can take anybody off the dribble when you've got J.R. Smith and Kyle Korver and George Hill and Tristan Thompson and Larry Nance in the game at the same time? That was the lineup that buried us in game 2. And why it was in there, I have no goddamn idea. Why would you play Tristan Thompson and Larry Nance Jr. at the same time? I got no fucking idea. Ask Tyronn Lue, because he's coaching like an idiot. But this is what we end up with. And nobody can put the ball on the floor. So, of course, if nobody can penetrate and get that initial first step, Boston's feet are going to get set on defense. You're never going to score. And that's exactly what happened. I mean, it's just a simple eye test. Anybody could figure this out except Ty Lue. But we don't have the pieces anyway. I really don't think that we have the pieces on our bench to be able to, Jordan Clarkson can take people off the dribble, but he's playing like a man who's totally frightened. So we don't have anybody who can just athletically break them down to give people an opportunity to shoot open threes. They, on the other hand, take a look at their lineup. I mean, when they have Marcus Smart on the floor, he can penetrate and dish, so he can put the ball on the floor. Jason Tatum can put the ball on the floor, finish, or pass out. You've got, Terry Rozier, who can penetrate, score, or he can kick out. You've got Marcus Morris to be able to catch and shoot the three-point ball. I mean, you're looking at players, and even Baines is shooting the highest percentage on the Celtics in not a huge sample, but making threes, because they can invert their offense and put their big guy periodically behind the arc, and they don't guard him, and he can make the shot. It's just the advantage that they have.
That they can, if they do close on him, he'll go right by, or he'll pass to an open cutter.
Well, I mean, they are disciplined, but it's more than that. They're quicker, and they have their height that they have, their length, can handle the ball and go to the basket, can put the ball on the floor. Our guys can't, Rodney Hood can't dribble the ball. Kevin Love can't dribble the ball. These guys can't take anybody off the dribble. I mean, J.R. Smith is old and really would rather shoot fadeaways. I mean, Kyle Korver's not going to take anybody off the dribble. The only person that we have who can take somebody off the dribble is LeBron James. And Lou has openly called out to George Hill to be more aggressive, but he hasn't been. And the reason is because he's a half-court guy. It's what he did in Indiana. It's what he did in San Antonio. He's not a guy who's going to charge into the lane and try to deliver that way. It's not the way he plays. It's not his mindset. And that's who the front office wanted. And that's who they got. And he doesn't play that kind of basketball. So,
well, and the closest thing to a true point guard that they have is Calderon, who's like 842.
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, we don't have penetrators. And in the athletic NBA, the way it is today, if you don't have penetrators, then you're not going to win. By the way, Amsterdam in the chat room saying, your buddy from the last chat says, happy birthday, Jew boy. It is my birthday today. I'm 61 years of age. So if anybody
happy birthday.
Yeah, and Daktar knows too. Happy Moo Day. Thank you, Daktar. Thank you, Amsterdam. I appreciate it. Amsterdam says Love is 6'10" with a vertical of 4 inches. But it isn't even that. It's just that he's just his feet. He's just not an athletic guy. He's got a lot of passing skills. Good passing.
And the injuries aren't going to help him.
No. And he's not a good defender. So, this is kind of what we're looking at. And it's a mountain that is virtually unclimbable. So, what can I tell you that you don't, I'm not trying to be Nancy negative here, but the eye test doesn't lie.
Well, I did pick the Celtics in 7, so there's that.
Well, I don't think the series is going to go 7. I said it was going to be 4-2, but I really just don't think that I really think it's the end of the road. I think that we had a nice little run in the playoffs. We took care of Toronto. We fought through Indiana. This is a better team than Indiana, and they're doing all the things that Indiana did, but with more versatile, athletic players, and it's just giving the Cavaliers fits. And people are asking me, what do you do with the 8th pick? And you pray that Porter's there, and you pray that his back is okay. I don't know what to tell people. And I think LeBron
they need a real point guard, regardless of whether LeBron's there or not. They need a real point guard. They need to find the next. Jesus, I'm blanking on this guy's name.
The next John Stockton, the next Chris Paul, the next. There's the next Jason Kidd. But
no, this one actually played for the Cavaliers. Price, the next Mark Price.
Yeah, I don't look at. I look at the draft and I see a lot of big men, but I don't see any. In today's NBA, it's scoring point guards. It's like Kyrie Irving, And I think
without LeBron, that wouldn't be such a bad thing, especially the way that the roster is currently constructed.
Well, but what I'm saying is there isn't a guy like that to take. There isn't, and the game is changing so much that the concept. They're running Marcus Smart at the point, and Marcus Smart's not a point guard. But as long as he can put the ball on the floor and get to
the Cavs aren't really playing a point guard either.
No, but you look at a guy like that, and he's strong, and so he's backing his man down. He's being used wisely. He's putting the ball on the floor, going to the rim, and then passing out. I really don't think that it requires Jason Kidd in this day and age. And take a look at what Philadelphia has, a 6'10" point guard who can't shoot, but who sets people up. Point guards are different today than they were 10, 15, 20 years ago. The game has just changed. And I don't know what to tell people, except you got to get the best player who can be a star player. And Porter's the guy who has the DNA. Now, the back injury that he suffered last year that wiped his entire freshman season out could be really a bad thing. It may be something that he can overcome and become quite a player. But when you're number 8, you're not going to get, the 7-foot guy from Arizona State. You're not going to get the guy from, and you don't need Trae Young. So don't even anybody. Trae Young is Johnny Manziel to me. It's Trae Young is undersized, and he really is not very gifted athletically. You need somebody who can put the ball on the floor and break down and penetrate. And guy like Porter could play a 2. A guy like that has the ability to put points on the board. And I'm assuming that if LeBron stays, if LeBron leaves, you just got to get, the best players you can. You got to trade Kevin Love. You got to get draft picks and suck it up. That's, that's all that's left to you when LeBron, or if LeBron leaves. So, and it's not because of just playoffs. I think that everything is like an arc. Everything has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And this, to me, looks like the final chapter of what has been a very glorious time for Cleveland Cavalier basketball. That's why I'm not upset. That's why I'm not complaining. But I see it as the end of something that was really great and fun to watch. And now you got to kind of batten down the hatches and get ready for the long storm that lies ahead. So it's not the greatest news in the world, but, you know, the Cavaliers are going to come out. You're going to know within the first quarter of that basketball game, you know, you're going to know. But I have a feeling that the whip puppies are going to come out. I really believe you're just going to see, just like you saw during the regular season, you're going to see them with their heads hanging, pointing fingers at one another, and the Celtics chewing them up. I really believe it doesn't matter what court you put them on. Home energy, maybe they can play one good game. The game one will be an adrenaline game. But I don't see Cleveland winning 2 games in Cleveland. I don't see that. So
not unless there's at least 4 of them in double figures.
Well, I don't know how, J.R. Smith hasn't been able to hit the broadside of a barn. We're not getting any assistance whatsoever off the bench in scoring the basketball. So, Corver has shot well. He's scored points for us, but, he's the guy who's going to run off screens, and he's pretty easily stopped if you just fight through the screen. And he'll run a lot, but he's just not very fast. He's not going to, all he can do is catch, shoot. Once you've stopped him in his tracks and he doesn't go up with that quick laser shot of his, force him to have to dribble the ball, the possession's gone because he doesn't pass all that well and he doesn't handle the ball well. So, that's that. Tomorrow we're going to find out everything we need to know. And I think I already know.
And moving right along.
Yeah, moving right along is right. There's more to talk about as far as the Cleveland Browns have traded Jamar Taylor. You're saying, didn't he just get here last year? And the answer is, if you had to sit and watch 16 weeks of him, you'd want him gone too. Jamar Taylor, when he played in Miami, and he was...
that's who they were talking about. Okay. The Phoenix radio was talking about Jamar Taylor joining the Cardinals.
Right. And the deal there is that Jamar Taylor, when he played in Miami and he was drafted by the Dolphins, his nickname was Toast.
Like Elvis Patterson.
Right. He got beat deep so many times, man. And the Browns got virtually nothing, a 6th round pick in 2020 for a guy who started last year. And the Browns have looked at all the front office. The new front office has looked at all the footage, and they saw what I saw last year. And again, it's the eye test. And this is why I feel better, at least, about this front office than last year, where people were just being delusional. The group of people in our defensive secondary were playing so far off the ball because they had no technique and no speed. You could just play pitch and catch all day. And if they tried to press cover, you could just throw the ball over their heads and give up, 60-yard touchdown passes. So it left no real options for Greg Williams in the defense. We've got a bunch of new names, and I don't know, out of those new names, somebody will arise who's going to be better than Jamar Taylor. That's, what it really boils down to. We've got Denzel Ward. We've got T.J. Carey, E.J. Gaines, Terrence Mitchell. These are all new guys that we've got on free agency. And Denzel, of course, in the draft. I'm sorry?
Calhoun's still on the team. So
Yeah, right. Brain body Calhoun, right? I mean, so, there wasn't much to keep as far as, Taylor came out of Boise State and, came to the team basically draft day 2016. He played 2 years. It seemed like 6. No, in Cleveland. There's nothing much I can say about him. And the whole defensive secondary was just simply awful. And I agree with what the front office is doing. The problem is that it's going to be tough sailing with a bunch of inexperienced guys who've never played in a system before. It's going to be a trick. So I don't know, but it's better than watching guys who can't run.
Well, and they finally have another good free safety. So, and they picked up Randall. So
yeah, I mean,
he should be good at free safety, which is his natural position. That's what he played at Arizona State.
all you can hope for is to be improved. And I can't imagine having a worse secondary than what we had last year. McCourty was already dealt. I just can't imagine having a worse secondary. And I'm looking forward. Now we're going to be on Hard Knocks. That's the new thing too. You know, I thought that was kind of interesting. There were two knocks. The death of Chuck Knox, the former coach of the Rams, who unfortunately perished from.
Seahawks.
I'm sorry.
And Seahawks.
And Seahawks, right. He passed away of Alzheimer's disease, and then Hard Knocks, which the Browns are going to be on after Hugh Jackson said that he didn't want to have anything to do with it, and John Dorsey said that he really wasn't very high on it.
I wonder if anybody's interviewed Kurt Warner, the running back he had in Seattle and in L.A.
About what?
Well, I mean, he played for him for like 10 or so years.
You never heard anything about Chuck Knox once he was out of football. You never heard anything. You know, a lot of these guys, it's like Marty Schottenheimer's dying of Alzheimer's disease. It's the same thing. Yeah, but
we could have said that about 30 years ago.
There is, taking the prevent defense route on Alzheimer's is not the best thing in the world to do. But yeah, I mean, people like Sam Bertigliano, who's, thankfully in good health. The NFL, you don't want to put the word Alzheimer's in the same sentence as former NFL coach, even though coach had nothing to do with contact and CTE. I mean, if you really want to piss the NFL off, just keep saying Alzheimer's disease to them, because anything that you can tie in with NFL and brain disease, they get very ruffled about. But the Browns have accepted the thing and the Hard Knocks thing, and it's going to be fun for me to watch, because I think everybody wants to see the whole Baker Mayfield thing, and I think there's so many little things that people want to see, behind the scenes of a dysfunctional organization.
Well, and it'll be interesting to see Mr. Rah-Rah, John Dorsey, have to start releasing players and cutting guys.
Yeah, what I see is that you're going to see Hugh Jackson and his duplicitous nature, but in the end, I think the Browns.
Well, hell, we get that at a press conference. That's not new.
I really think that the Browns succumb to this simply because the overall awareness of Cleveland is as a laughingstock in the league. They are the most inept, and I think in the end, the Browns front office feels that the only way to dispel that notion is through some publicity that might be positive. The problem is that everyone's going to tune into Hard Knocks to look at the most dysfunctional, inept organization in professional sports. And everything that they're going to see on this program is going to be questioned, and they're going to double think through things to try to figure out why it's the dumbest thing that the Browns could do. The only way you turn it around is you win. There is no marketing that's going to erase the stain of what the organization hasn't done. You have to achieve. And I don't see Hard Knocks or any of it.
The league kind of put this on them, so
I understand, but the thing is you just know when the camera's pointing at you and you're coming off of 1-31 in 2 years, that they're there for a reason and with a preconceived notion, even though it's a different group of people in charge.
If you looked at it, somebody had a chart of the last 15 years of them doing this, and their records the previous season and the following season, and it's like, well, they had 0 wins last year, so if they go 6-10 this year, that's like a massive fucking improvement.
Well, I think that anything the Browns do will be, if they look like a professional football team, then we win. Okay. Anything that if we are in there and we're actually fighting for games and we're not doing silly, stupid, panicky things to figure out a way to lose. If our coach drowns himself in the lake and we get a real coach, all these things are going to be positives for the Cleveland Browns organization. But I just don't think that Hard Knocks is anything but tabloid media. I just think that it is unhealthy for a team that's looking to focus. I think it's a distraction. And I think the league is doing us no favors by putting us on that program. That's what I think.
Yeah, I told somebody in the comments for when he made the announcement that he was going to be jumping in the lake. I said, hey, can we ratchet up the degree of difficulty by tying 2 40-pound stones to his legs? And somebody else asked, why didn't he do this in the wintertime? And someone was playing it way too straight, said, oh, well, he has a heart condition or something that prevented him from doing that. It's like, whatever.
Who, Hugh Jackson? He doesn't have a heart. He lacks heart. There is nothing that will salvage this man in my eyes. He is the double-talking, non-trustworthy, non-leader of men that I honestly despise. He just is a douchebag. And it's very, there have been times when our head coach has not been maybe the sharpest knife in the drawer. The only time that I stopped being a Browns fan was when Forrest Gregg was the head coach of the Browns, because he was a fucking douchebag with a major tick. And I really despised him because everything about him was backward. He was still living in the 1960s and the NFL was changing. It was an era of Air Coryell and the beginning of a whole new verticalized form of football. And he's still playing in his mind in the goddamn with the Green Bay Packers, and Bart Starr. And he destroyed the confidence of young players. Sam Rutigliano was Sam Rutigliano because he was fortunate enough to follow that douchebag into the door. And he managed to get Mike Pruitt to stop fumbling. He got, he was willing to invest in Brian Sipe rather than this horrible indecision about Mike Phipps and Brian Sipe that just crippled the Cleveland Browns during, Forrest Gump's run of the team. That was the last time I stopped cheering for the Browns because the coach was just a douchebag. I've seen a lot of coaches.
I remember when Forrest Gregg. Let's see, my earliest memories of Forrest Gregg was when he was coaching the Bengals.
Yeah, I remember that too.
So I didn't know he had a stint with the Browns.
Oh yeah. Right before Sam. Yep. But there have been others who, Butch Davis was a guy who I didn't realize how much of a douchebag he was until he was gone. He was spying on his own players and that kind of thing. And you realize why that never went any further. His career.
Holy crap! We have a church mouse sighting.
Oh hell yeah!
Oh, so wow, better late than never, huh?
No, I came late to the party, I guess.
Yeah, hey, that's all right. Hey, better late than never.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to turn his microphone down just a little bit here. I can't. His mic is already turned down. So you're a little bit on the hot side, Matt. If you can bring your volume down just a tad, it would help.
How do you do that on here? I'm on my phone.
Oh, you're oh wow. Okay, so you're doing well, that's right.
Probably through volume control.
Right.
Normal volume control.
because I am getting some a lot of loud feedback. That's probably just a condenser because you don't have a headset. That's why we're getting that.
Well, I'm using my earplugs.
Yeah, I guess.
It might be my earplugs, maybe.
No, I don't think so. I think that we'll do it this way. It's all good. But there have been others. Butch Davis was a douchebag, and but that was afterwards. You only found that out later on,
no, I knew he was a douchebag at Miami.
But, now Huey Jackson is something I joke about it, but I really have.
Are they doing like some type of thing where he's going to be jumping in the lake and they're going to do some funding or something?
Yeah. It's a GoFundMe, and they're hoping he drowns. I don't.
No. It's a misspelling. It's supposed to be a "Go Find Me."
Oh, I gotcha. Very good.
So he's going to get carried by the currents all the way down the St. Lawrence and out in
Brian, here you go. Dun 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 dun. Sitting here resting my bones. Okay, we're Otis Redis. Yeah.
So they're gonna jump in the lake and they're gonna wash away all their winless season. I guess, right?
Yeah, they're gonna dredge the lake and come up with a body. It's just,
yeah,
I want the photo op. I want the photo op that proves he's dead. Okay, that's what I want. It's like with Otis.
You'll see the Vindicator.
Did you ever see the picture of them pulling Otis out of the lake?
He was pretty bloated.
Oh, it was really sad. I'm sitting there, and they're pulling him out, kind of like a big old swordfish, and I'm like, God, try a little tenderness, for God's sake. I know anything for a bad punchline. It happens. But again, Huey is a guy who has just lost me because I can't stand people who deflect to protect themselves and use people.
So
as
if the Browns
shields.
have a good season, do you think Huey's still going to be going?
It's all about winning.
I'm saying some miracle way the Browns make the playoffs, do you think he'll still be there, or do you think they'll pull like some type of Titans thing where the Titans fired their coach?
I think a lot of it has to do. First of all, let's be honest about Huey Jackson. Huey is a self-aggrandizer. And my feeling is that if he had anything resembling a winning season, he would have no trouble marketing himself to other football teams to get out of Cleveland. He's a self-aggrandizer.
Nobody wants
him.
That's the problem. Nobody wants him. Only the Browns.
Well, maybe if he ends up with a winning record in Cleveland, maybe somebody will. My point is
he's going to go into politics because he keeps failing upward.
Yeah, I tend to think that they just re-signed Marvin Lewis, and I think maybe Huey was waiting to see if something happened that he can get back to Cincinnati. The thing I don't like about Huey is that his history is to be at odds with the front office. It would happen in Oakland. It happened last year in Cleveland. Now we have a new front office. I think the question that I'm being asked is going to be really solely dependent on how he meshes with the front office and whether there is a resistance between the two. And I tend to think that there's likely going to be some flack because, you've got Zampese working with the quarterbacks. You've got Dorsey really doing the draft, and you've got an offensive coordinator from Pittsburgh that they've brought in to call the plays, and Huey's kind of on an island right now. He's kind of a man without a country, and I think this has been set up so that they could very easily dismiss him and not miss anything.
Yeah, I think that's what they're doing.
He's lost this responsibility, this responsibility, this responsibility, and
do you think they're gonna fire Huey Jackson? They're gonna go with Todd Haley as their interim head coach?
Again, what I tell you is 0-4, and Huey is likely to be sunk in the lake.
Has to be, right?
You would think that, and I honestly think.
Well, it could depend on how the trial goes down in Tennessee.
Yeah, I mean, his tenure is tenuous. Let's put it that way. He's kind of hanging by his fingernails, and I think it would be very easy to
hang
move
by
out.
other appendages.
Yeah, exactly. It would be easy to replace him.
Not included.
Yeah, I think you have enough people with responsibilities now that there's no great expertise that Hugh Jackson has for the Cleveland Browns that makes him inexpendable. If you want to make the move, you can make the move because you have an offensive coordinator. You'll have continuity within the organization. You'll have a defensive coordinator. Hugh is not doing any of those things. So they can move on him if they need to move on him. But I think it's mainly going to be whether he can play nice with the people above him. And he's never been able to do that because he's just a self-aggrandizer. And he's a real, unfortunately.
I think we get Mel Brooks's Gov jacket from Blazing Saddles and make him wear it the whole season.
He's an alienating guy. I mean, that's
paddle ball and see if he can use it.
The problem is half the team will support him, half the team won't support him, and nobody wants to talk shit about the head coach when you're on a team that's coming off 1-31. You want a job. So nobody's going to get in the middle of that. So it's going to be the front office that has to decide what they're going to do with him. And my way of thinking, it's all going to come out in the win and loss column.
I don't think D. Haslam's going to let him go out the door without really making it extenuating circumstances.
Well, I suppose we will see. Right now I just want to see how the team. I want to see which of these players that we have gotten, who are going to be the guys who stick to the roster, and who are the guys who are just people who are kept for practice squad, and then others who are just flat out dismissed. And
didn't the Browns make some type of trade with the Cardinals or something?
A trade with whom?
The Cardinals. Yeah.
I'm talking about Jamar Taylor.
Well, yeah. I really don't. Again, I think that's just peddling something, getting rid of something.
Yeah, I think they're getting rid of.
That's addition by subtraction. I mean, they simply what they did would be considered a class move in NFL circles, because what they were telling Jamar Taylor is, had you gone through the process, you would have been cut. And if we trade you
right away,
if we trade you now, you can latch on to a team and not be in that situation where your reputation has been damaged by being cut by a 1-31 team. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. He's got enough years vested, 6 years in the league, that they treated him with respect. And that's considered a good way of handling a situation like that. But believe me, it's addition by subtraction. That's all it is.
Well, and it's the same thing with Danny Shelton. He dealt him off to a winning franchise, so he actually gets to experience before he's out of the league.
Oh, this is horrible. I wanted to read this because this strikes really close to home. Oh God, Patrick Gilroy, who was supposed to be our guest on the program today. The joy of watching the Celtics go up 2-0 has been absolutely compromised. He says, "I'm sorry, man. My dog passed away last night, and I've spent the day digging her grave. I just finished, and I'm emotionally and physically spent. I'll make it up to you. Hey, you don't have to, Patrick. It's all good, man. God, I'm sorry about that, because I know what losing a dog is like." Let me just type in my condolences. God almighty. God.
Yeah, you and I have been through that, Moo.
Yeah, I mean,
I lost like 2 dogs. I have mine.
Yeah, I mean, they become such parts of your life that it's and like Patrick's a good guy. He's a good guy, and he'd give a good balanced account of this. He's 19 years been doing this in Boston radio, so he's he knows what he's doing, and we'll have him on. And I'll have him on if the Celtics beat the Cavaliers so that he can celebrate making the finals. I'll have him on. But anything to make him feel better, that's a loss. Sorry to hear that. God. Other than that, what we're getting is the Warriors and the Rockets, and what's going to happen with that. And it's 1-1, but it might as well be.
I think Golden State's going to win that.
Golden State is going to win that, and let's be honest about this. Harden. They want to talk MVP, but Harden is going to disappoint you when it counts the most. He's going to have another selfish game where he takes 45 shots or something stupid like Russell Westbrook does, and he's going to come up lame and cold. And all it takes is 2 wins by the Warriors on their home court. And
I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, I just think that once they go up 3-1, there is no way in God's creation you come back from that. And I'm looking at Durant and I'm looking at Steph Curry, and I'm thinking, what a joke Steph Curry is. What a fucking joke he is. They tried to sell him as the face of the franchise, the face of the league, and he just looks like an undersized, slow little prick. He doesn't. It is Durant. That is the engine that drives that vehicle. My God, do you see what he's doing? Shooting the ball. And they're defending him well, and he's still making these shots. His wingspan is so long, and he shoots so well. He moves so well. Again, he's part of this whole new NBA.
And on this team, he is basically LeBron.
Yeah, he's absolutely the shit. He's the guy who the straw that stirs the drink.
I don't doubt that he'll be the finals MVP no matter who they play.
And something, I was getting into some discussions with people on Twitter about, why, my belief is that the NBA is going to bestow the MVP award on LeBron, and it's going to be done in the most sarcastic of ways so that they can say the reigning NBA MVP, when that's going to be the way they make nice to LeBron after LeBron loses to the Celtics, and and it's going to be able to, the marketing wing of the NBA will be able to say the reigning MVP of the league, what a great value he's going to be in free agency and this and that, and the whole story will take off from there. But, I think Anthony Davis has been sensational since Boogie Cousins, went away. But, Harden is a joke to me. I don't think that means a damn thing, because you look at the lineup surrounding Harden, he's got such a better group of players surrounding him than LeBron James does. And the fact that this is all the further that Houston can get, he can't be the MVP. I gotta be honest. I think that Kevin Durant right now is, along with LeBron, is right there. Is right there, and these other names are just incidental, and they may give it to Anthony Davis just to throw something positive at a Pelican franchise. It hasn't had a lot to be positive about in the past, God knows how many years. But I can't help but think that they're going to give it to LeBron, because every year that the Cavaliers did great and made it to the finals, he didn't get shit, didn't get shit. And he was clearly the MVP on a couple of occasions, didn't get shit. He's going to get it this year because of the circumstance. You mark my words. And it's not a good thing. Again, it's another thing that is just kick Cleveland to the curb kind of thing. The last thing I wanted to talk about today before we get out of here is the Indians. And there isn't really a whole hell of a lot to say about the Indians, except they're playing 500 ball in the worst division in baseball.
They lost 2 or 3 to Detroit.
And and doing so by giving up the bullpen is just, I want to point out that the bullpen should come as no surprise with the transition from Mickey Callaway to that idiot Carl Willis, who was always a bozo, always a loser the last time he was in Cleveland. He's a horrible pitching coach. He does nothing to help his pitchers. He knows nothing about
mechanics. Do you think that's why our bullpen's been playing like this? Because we don't got Callaway anymore? You think that's why they're not performing well?
We have Lurch.
Yeah, do you think that's why we're performing not at the level we should be performing at?
Sasquatch. Yeah, I think it's twofold. I think that the front office didn't replace Brian Shaw with anybody capable. We brought up a bunch of old goofy arms, guys like Beliveau and Belle and guys like Ogando. I mean, these are people who are scraps. They're old, washed up people. So the front office is primarily to blame. But when you lose a mechanical guy like Mickey Callaway, who helps, I mean, why do you think Tomlin's never going to come out of the rut? Because Callaway's gone. I mean, Lurch can't help him one goddamn bit. I watched this.
Maybe we should try the prison league.
Yeah, what seemed like a goddamn decade of this nonsense with Lurch. I saw it before, you know, and now I'm looking at it again. And I think it does have something to do with it. But the other thing
back from the DL, Matt.
What's that?
Is Miller back from the DL?
Yeah, he is. He was. Didn't he give up them? He gave up a
home run.
Yeah, 2-run home run against the Royals. Yeah. No, they're all in a funk. It seems.
Yeah, he hung a slider to Sal Perez. You know, it can happen. But I mean, the bottom line is that nobody can continue to be as perfect as Miller has been.
Indians play every year. It's like no surprise to me. I mean, everyone expects, the Indians should be playing good at the start of the season, but we all know this is how they play. They play 500 baseball in this time of the year.
Well, it usually would have gotten better by now, and it isn't this way.
No, I think it took till June or July for us to wake up in last year.
Well, I mean, I want to read this article because it really infuriated me. But it's and we play the Astros, wonderful. I want to see if I can find this article. Okay, Columbus Clippers report: Yandy Diaz slumps. Now, this is another one of the classic things that the Cleveland Indians and Tito and his stupid front office are really good at, and that's burying players in the minor leagues. And Yandy Diaz is off to a slow start, hitting .247. Over his last 25 games, he hasn't had a multi-hit game since April the 20th. And so it's let's piss on Yandy Diaz, and not a single mention of Jason fucking Kipnis, who is the reason that Yandy Diaz is bored to death at AAA and never going to get a chance to play in the major leagues because of that fat ass Kipnis. And I'm just sick of it. I don't care. I'm looking at the goddamn date. I'm looking at the weather they're playing in. It isn't the weather. It isn't the date. His bat's slow. He can't get runners in anymore. He pops the ball up. His bat's slow. It doesn't go to the opposite field, except before he used to hit him off the walls to the opposite field. His bat slowed down. Even with a juice ball, he can't get it out there now. He's just hitting the ball into the gap, and they're running over and catching it. He looks like he's lost pop. And I just don't get it. And you knew that was going to happen. The thing that's so funny about it is we've got a guy like Frankie Lindor who is hitting the cover off the baseball and hitting
Lindor chocolates.
He's playing great, playing really not so well defensively maybe, but offensively doing everything you'd expect. But when they held him down in AAA for too long, when they got him from Columbus, he was only hitting like a 250. And everyone said, well, geez, how come he's not doing so well? He's fucking bored. He doesn't have anything more to do at AAA. He's depressed. Yandy Diaz has done everything he's supposed to do, and he can't make his way up because of that fucking fat pussy toad at second base who won't move over and let an all-star second baseman move back to his natural position. That's what the problem is. And they can move him wherever they want in the fucking lineup. I mean, you notice how you move Michael Brantley anywhere in the lineup and he hits? Because he's fucking good. Because he hits well. It doesn't matter where you hide Kip. This is like trying to hide Roberto Perez. He can't fucking hit. I mean, how long do you have to see? What sample size do you need before you realize the guy can't fucking hit? You know, Brandon Geyer can't fucking hit. You know, his whole career, he's been a lefty guy. He's been a platoon guy. They're playing him against righties. He's hitting 170. He can't fucking hit.
All of our Clevelanders need to steal a dump truck and plunk him on his way to the ballpark.
I mean, it's frustrating as hell. I mean, it's like...
that's your job, Matt. You got to run him over with a dump truck.
Yeah, yeah, there, the dump truck. There you go. I'm with you in the chat room. You know, to me, it's Ron Shane saying bingo on the Kip shit. Yeah, at this point, it's obvious what the problem is, and they need to, you know. But now, this is what they've done, and it's really what they did for the longest time with Giovanni Urshela. And I never understood. I mean, Giovanni Urshela can't hit. He's a magnificent fielder. He can't hit. And I don't care where he plays. And now he's up in Toronto, and let him hold their nose up in Toronto. He's only a utility player up there. He can't break the starting lineup up in Toronto. He can't fucking hit. Yet we kept dragging his sorry ass up to third base, and instead of grooming Andy Diaz years ago to be a third baseman, we instead put our money on a guy who couldn't hit more than 220 at the big league level. And that's all Gio Urshela will ever be, is a slick fielding guy who can't fucking hit. So, you know, and now have they ruined Yandy Diaz? I wouldn't be surprised if they trade Yandy Diaz now and give him away to somebody. That's, to me, just you know, it's pathetic. It's just bad organizational stuff, bad decision making, and it's not like we have a whole hell of a lot in our minor league system. And you know, to sit there and say, no, I don't think it's time to panic about the bullpen and make a trade. It's like, yeah,
I do think we do have to trade.
You got to have a proven arm in your bullpen. How could you go into the goddamn season without any? How would you rely on Zach McAllister? Why would you do that? He's a one-pitch guy. He can't get people out. He's not your seventh inning bridge. He's not that guy. You thought you were going to cheat your way through, and you thought that Tyler Olson was for real. And I told everybody, no, this guy is just chaff. He's not wheat. This is a guy who, you know, organizations like the Mets don't just give up on people like Tyler Olson when they suck as bad as they do. They get rid of him for a reason. He has an 89-mile-an-hour fastball, and he can't get right-handed hitters out, period. That's the story, beginning and end. Ryan Merritt's on the 60-day disabled list, and it doesn't fucking matter. Ryan Merritt throws 86 miles an hour tops. He ain't going to make it in the major leagues. We don't have any power arms. That's the problem. Now they're saying, should we have a 6 starting pitcher? No. We should have a 4-pitcher starting rotation and just get rid of Josh Tomlin once and for all.
That would be the dream.
Yeah, I mean, it's not expanding to 6. I mean, so now what we're going to say is, well, Josh Tomlin's arm can't hold up even as a 5th starter. Fuck him. His arm never holds up. You got to make hard decisions. That's what it is. And, you know, and it's a shame because Jose Ramirez is having a great season. Michael Brantley's having a great season. Lindor's having a great season. Encarnacion still hasn't woken up, and his bat looks slow to me. He looks like he's guessing
I'm looking at that Eric Gonzalez kid. He's looking pretty good.
Well, I mean, Eric Gonzalez, is a guy. He's going to be your utility infielder, and it's fine. He can play a number of positions, and maybe he can hit the ball a little better than Gio Urshela did. Yeah, I think
he's looking. Yeah. He's proven it.
Yeah, I think that in limited samples, he can do okay. But what the Indians need is, Gomes is actually having a decent year. I think
they need help in the bullpen.
Yep. The problem right now, they're scoring runs. They're losing leads in the middle innings.
They need to stop with the whole, we need to fix this. We need to just get it together with our bullpen. They need to go out and trade for some relief pitcher or something.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily easy to find, but this is a shortcoming of the organization in the offseason, and it was a need that needed to be addressed, and they didn't do it. And that's the reputation. While the Yankees are going out and getting Carlos Stanton, and spending money galore, the Cleveland Indians, the mid-sized market, are reminding everybody, we're a mid-sized market, and they're not even shelling out any money to get any kind of bullpen. And that is what losing organizations do. When you think you have just enough to win the lousy Central, you're not even playing for the World Series now. You're just hoping that you're going to be able to get to the playoffs. And it's
playing for the division. That's all they're playing for.
And that's really sad. That really sends a message to the fans who are not going to show up to the stadium because, it's obvious that they're not investing in a period of time. It's like Miggy Cabrera saying, I'm not going to play hurt anymore. It's like a lot of players remember the good old days, and now the Tigers just blow donkey dick, and now he doesn't want to play hurt anymore. It's like, move him along. I mean, Miggy maybe can't stand getting old any more than Ichiro could, but everybody gets old and their bat slows down. And I'm afraid that Encarnacion might be the next victim of that because he's looking like he's very Napoli-esque right now. Like he's fishing up there. So, and an occasional little soft liner in the left field. There's nothing rocketing off his bat at all. And that's really kind of nerve-wracking. I think that the trade, or the swap, in essence, for Santana and Yonder Alonso has gone fine. That's fine. But you can't survive with Brandon Geyer in your outfield, Chad Allen in your outfield. You can't survive with these people. And, I don't know. And now the word of Robbie Cano, he's gone for 80 games because of a suspension, because of an illegal substance. Got that. And that was what Melky Cabrera did years ago. And his fat ass is still sitting somewhere in extended spring training in Cleveland. You're never going to see Melky Cabrera. And I don't think you want to anyway. He's probably gained 60 pounds, and you have to wheel him onto the field. All right. I'm done. It's 10 after 7. I want to sit down. I want to enjoy my dinner. I'm getting an upset stomach talking about all this shit. Plus, I feel terrible about a guy losing his dog. I really feel terrible about that because, it brings up memories of Barky DeWolf. He was my original Sheltie. And Kibble DeWolf, who was the second one, who died of cancer when he was 6. And that was a painful last year to have to go through that. We put him through chemo. It was really difficult. And now I have 3, including the ones back here that just barely out of camera view. We got Cosmo the Wolf and Jade Wolf the Wolf, and upstairs Jiva the blue dog. And it hurts. It hurts to lose them because I can't for the life of me understand. We extend human life, but dogs still only live as long as they do. I wish dogs lived longer. I really do. But, all right, guys, I appreciate you showing up and helping me out on the program today. We'll see what happens tomorrow and see if the Cavaliers can at least make this a series and keep this interesting for a while longer.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. That's what it comes down to. Brian, thanks a lot for joining me today.
No problem.
All right, man. Everybody, thanks a lot for tuning into this edition of Moohead Radio. Back again on Monday, so we'll be talking more about the Browns and the Cavs and the Indians. Until then, hasta la vista, Pastor Heads. Good night.